everybody to what used to be the Tuesday Big Joel community call. We have now moved this to Mondays. I see everyone got the memo, which is pretty awesome. We will get to see tomorrow who didn't get the memo, who comes on at 12:30 on Tuesday. We'll see who tries to log on. Thank you, everybody, for coming on this new day with me. As I said last week, my last flight, actually, Samantha Daly's on here, was to Denver March 18th in 2020. And that was my last flight. And my first flight, my first post-COVID flight is tomorrow. And I'm heading to California, to Orange County, and to Los Angeles or Beverly Hills. And those of you that know me well know that I'm on the road a lot, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're moving this call to Mondays so we don't have to miss them. Of course, baby housekeeping, next Monday is Memorial Day. We will not have the call, so we will see you 2 weeks later. Everybody, I've listened to you. We will keep the calls to 30 minutes. I will be interviewing really awesome loan people every week. This week, we have none other than Molly Meeker. We were just talking about how when I first met her, we were telling the story about how hot it is in Fresno. She's coming in hot from Fresno, California, the fruit basket of the world. Those of you that have seen my podcast with her know that she's awesome. She's an old school originator that understands, she does more than originate, she manages as well, but that understands, the relationship, understands what her job is. And she will be dropping bombs like my guest last week as well. Molly is with Bay Equity. And Molly, just say hi to everybody. How long have you been in the business real quick?
20 years.
20, just a quick 20, short 20. Just to freak you out. It's only 2001. Isn't that weird? That's 20 years ago, 2001. So Molly, I just want to start by asking, I've been asking everyone on the call, obviously this is a national thing, inventory. The gap last week I had on Sean Panosi and he said he doesn't think it's changing anytime soon, meaning we're going to get inventory. Everyone on this call has heard me talk, really more quoting Housing Wire. We started January 2020 short like 3 million houses. That was pre-COVID, before everyone was like, I got to move. I got to need a bigger house. I need an office. I need this. I need that. I just want to get out of where I am because if I'm going to be home, I got to go. And loan officers are writing 10, 12, 13, 72, letters for the same client. They're writing them all weekend. Their agent clients are doing the same thing. So I just love to hear from you, hit both sides. What things are you doing, with borrowers to either enhance their chances of getting a property, make them more prepared for these crazy escalator offers with appraisals waived and home inspections waived and the whole bit. And then what are you doing with borrowers? And then with your agent partners, who I think probably need a lot of counseling because they're writing so many offers. And God forbid they have a first-time buyer, or like a 3% down. And those of you that don't know Molly does a lot of government loans. Those are the hardest people to get in because someone's coming right behind with 20% down and don't care. So I'd love to just hand you the floor. Borrowers, what are you doing? What are you doing special? What would my guests love to hear? Some good tips, techniques to get your offers approved.
Yeah, so I'll just say a couple of things where we live specifically. We were just talking about, we're in the middle between LA and San Francisco. And currently we're having a big influx of people coming from the Bay Area and LA to move here, because they can sell their houses and practically buy cash here.
Wow.
So the struggle is that we're not just competing against our own market of people. We have this whole other group that's coming in that's sort of sucking up the market. And, they can get a nice big lot with maybe even an ADU on it and pay cash. So there's a couple of things that I talk to people about. One of them is, if you are going to pay cash, and from the loan officer side, we can do a delayed financing purchase. So I'm not sure if anybody's ever talked about delayed financing on your calls, but we are running into a lot of people here that have cash, but ultimately they want to take advantage of the low rates. So they can pay cash and then we can turn around and do a delayed financing purchase. It's based off acquisition price, and you do a refi to get the cash out for them. You just have to prove where the cash came from. So that's one of the things that we're doing, because we are still experiencing a lot of cash buyers. The other thing that we do is we ask the listing agent, and I'm sure people are saying, or the buyer's agent, to please put us on any correspondence with any of the offers that they're writing, so that we can then turn around and just reach out and say they're pre-approved, they're DU. For those of you who have heard me on the calls before, we still do full pre-approvals. So W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, full DU, credit report. If they have gift funds, we're verifying that sort of stuff. So believe it or not, even in this market, we're getting down payment assistance loans approved with sellers, because we're going above and beyond and communicating with the seller about, that these are great homes. They're allowing a first-time home buyer to come into their home. It's not an investor, giving someone an opportunity that wouldn't normally have an opportunity. So those are some of the selling points that we're doing as far as the purchase piece.
Molly, hold that thought for 1 second. She said this really fast. Did you hear her say gift funds verified? Those of you all that know me well have heard me ranting and raving when I'm talking about BICs and PPs, when I'm talking about fully docking files up front. And then when I get to the point where I say there are great originators across the country fully docking gifts up front, and most loan officers, Molly, look at me like I'm like from Mars or something. You can't do that. That's impossible. Whatever. You literally just said. And by the way, Molly, there's no prep for this call. You just heard it right there. Molly does a lot of units, and she is looking people in the eye and docking gifts up front. Her people are not running around 5 days before settlement because Uncle Billy said they were giving them $5,000, and now Uncle Billy's giving them $1,000, and they're getting $4,000 from Aunt Millie, and they're busy chasing all of that. So it is doable. And I think in this market, Molly, we have talked a lot about how important the lenders are. I've never seen, you've been doing this 20 years, you've ever seen a market where the lender's more important, meaning to an agent. I never have.
No, but it's crazy because we still have, and I'm going to say I'm not trying to bash anyone. We always like local lenders and actual mortgage bankers or wholesalers, because the big banks, they just don't provide the same level of assurance sometimes that the real estate agents need. So they're going into a big bucket of people, and they're kind of getting worked on as they get worked on. The big banks don't just do mortgages. They do homes, cars, boats, trucks. They open accounts. They do all sorts of stuff. So you're not always getting your best level of service from them. Not that they're not necessarily good. So we do preach a lot about having a local person, or having a person that actually specializes in home loans, even if they're not necessarily local, just home loans in general, because things have to be so creative now to get these people into houses. And when you have a shortfall on an appraisal, we have to make sure that we've already had conversations with our people about either coming in with extra money or changing their loan to value, and talking to them up front about MI and what that looks like. My specific team uses Mortgage Coach, and we are just kind of getting really active in that. And the reviews are amazing about the changes that you can make, so they can go in and see the differences if there's a shortfall, or if they're paying over, or what that looks like. You can also use the part where, if the rate was higher. So today I had a call with a gal, you'll love this. She's upset because her appraisal came in too high.
She's mad about it, right?
She's mad about it. She said she doesn't think the house is worth that. I'm like, well, you wrote the offer. So what's the expectation there? So people are kind of starting to adjust. And she says to me, well, what if my house isn't worth as much in 2 years? And I said, well, neither is your car, neither is your hairdryer. Typically neither is anything else that you buy. Real estate's one of the only thing that ebbs and flows the way that it does, and typically always comes back to end up being a good investment. If you're looking at paying that today with that rate, as opposed to paying a little bit less with a 5% rate down the road, we all know the difference in that. And to be able to do the cost of waiting, I think, is a big conversation that I'm having now with people, and just trying to make them understand that we don't know what the market's going to do.
So Molly, you're the second, third, fourth loan officer in a row, and I only have great loan officers on with me. that has said the same thing. I've been saying it forever. You were just actually, I call it pencil selling. You were just explaining to everyone, hey, you better know how to pencil sell. Not only are we going over 1, 2, 3, 4 different scenarios before they even write, so they're ready. And I'm going to, like, we can use this to segue right to your partners, because I know your partners are digging that. The fact that that's already done. But you're also really pencil selling the value of money, the cost of money, what they're doing, what's going on, because this is just wacky. I mean, it's a little easier if they're selling a house and buying one. It's a little easier because they cleaned up on the one they sold. So it's easier to say, look, get over it. Yeah, you think this house isn't worth it, but you also just sold your house, which wasn't worth it. It's those first-time buyers that are buying the first time. They're just can't imagine writing an offer and paying 30, I'll use 30 over in Fresno because that's probably extreme or normal. But in some markets, Sean Gaudreau's on here somewhere in Boston. I mean, there's 80 over, 90 over, 100 over, insanity over, where people have to be grounded and ready and know their numbers. And like you said, MI, what's MI? Okay, you're going to have MI now. Wait, what? I was putting 20% down, so I didn't have to have that. Okay, relax. Here's what the numbers look like. You're not going to get this house. You have to do it like this. So talk to me about your partners. Are your partners, are they freaking out having to write so many offers? What are you talking to them about? How are you coaching them to help themselves or to let you help them better?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely fatigue in the market. We just opened up again to do open houses. So I don't know who else is doing that, but before, they were doing this scheduling every 15 minutes, and they're definitely tired. But the same token, what I tell people is we look at really for us in January of 2020, we were still struggling a little bit. I mean, we flipped very quickly to a seller's market. It was kind of a buyer's market before. We did have more inventory than we do now. Just communicating with them a lot, talking to them about, obviously, not just for me, but any local lender. If they're coming with local lenders, making sure that you're really getting a relationship with that lender as an agent so that that they've done all the things that we just talked about. And probably one of the other things is people are just getting so desperate that they're like, yeah, I'll see a place in Clovis, I'll see a place in Fowler, I'll see a place here or there, and trying to really keep your buyers into the bucket that they want to be in, because then you're putting butts in seats, as you like to say. Yeah. And that we're going to buy these houses out of the general area, right? So school district's a big thing here too. So we have a lot of people trying to get into the same bucket for school district. So, just really probably communicating, trying to have them add you to those emails, any communication with listing agents. I mean, we're calling them, we're talking to them, we're sending DUs, which we didn't really do that before. I was really anti sending DU because I feel like you can put anything in a system and make it spit out a DU, but agents don't necessarily know that. So they are tired and they're beat up. Even in our $1.5 million price point, things are going for $100,000 over. So
what are the listing agents saying? I'm hearing a lot. It sounds so normal, but I hear from a lot of loan officers, and they get on the phone with the listing agent. Not a lot of loan officers are really calling them, are really actively communicating with them to try to, I'll just use the word, sell their deal through. And I'm hearing it all the time from some of the best loan officers in the country. The reason we're still so busy is because we are an active part of getting these things accepted. Are you, is that all day, every day for you? You're on those calls?
Yeah. Calls, emails, or texts. We absolutely, for any new loan officer that's on the phone, you do need to build the relationship with the buyer's agent, always, first and foremost, even if they're not technically yours or whatever, you came across them somehow. So the biggest black belt move for us is add us when you send the offer to them, right? So when you're sending the offer, copy us, and then we right away email or call them and let them know about your approval. We typically will know too the purchase price and what they offered over so that we can verify that they have the funds, which goes back to what we talked about before, doing a full pre-approval. And I think that listing agents are a little bit wiser right now. They do know, like, hey, does this person have the shortfall? Although I did have a listing agent the other day say, well, they removed their appraisal contingency, so why are we doing an appraisal?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think I've never seen, I've been doing this just a little bit longer than you, but I have never seen a market where a good lender is more important as a teammate with a good agent ever. And I look at it as an opportunity in time for us to really sort of switch it up a little bit and curb some of that behavior that even the best loan officers get. You know, the 5:15 phone call on Friday, can you pre-approve my person right now? I'm taking them out. And you're like, wait, when did you know about this person? Tuesday. Why didn't you call me on Tuesday? Why are you calling me now? Sorry.
Yeah. So I think we're always going to fight that battle. There's always going to be a very excitable real estate agent, which is honestly what we want. We want them out there beating the pavement, getting these buyers so that we can approve them. For me personally, I do just try and coach people. I feel like every deal that we try and do on the weekend never ends up being a deal. It's always rushed. The people never feel like they got great service by the agent or us. Not to say that it's always that way, but it is hard when you're rushing through someone's process. And I've said this to you before, but people will spend hours to go buy a car. Like they'll sit in there for hours. They're going over numbers. They're doing all these things, payment, what's important to them. And then they'll just go to anybody to get their loan that will answer the phone on a Friday night. And that's really just unacceptable from our standpoint and from the real estate standpoint, to be honest with you, because quality, everybody needs downtime, whether it's a weekend or, you know, after hours or what have you. I will typically always answer my text, which is like, when are the offers due? That's now one of my biggest questions, because where we are, people are putting on the listing, you know, we're reviewing everything Monday at 5.
Right.
So it doesn't get your offer in, you know, get your letter done today or Sunday, maybe when I have a little bit more time. But in all honesty, I am one of those I do work on the weekends, and I do answer my phone. I do answer my text message. I fit it into the buckets that I have available. I am not one of the loan officers who's like, I cut it off at 5 and I don't answer anything until 8 in the morning. I've been criticized for that and praised for it.
Molly, I don't know who criticized you for that, but not someone that has ever in their life done a lot of loans, because last week we had the #1 loan officer in the country who did, like, I don't even want to tell you how many units, and he said the exact same thing. So yeah, there's something there. Whoever criticized you for that is crazy, because, you know, I mean, he just said flat out, be available. You know, someone, and in this market, you got to be honest, available, because they're freaking out.
Yeah, and be honest about it. So yesterday, you know, I was in the car. I was driving home from a birthday party for one of the mini kids that you see on my post. And, you know, I just told the gal, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be able to do this today, but I'll pump it out first thing in the morning for you. But the conversation piece with someone who's knowledgeable really helps a lot. So they're like, they can breathe a little easier. They're like, okay, no problem. We'll get to this in the morning. I think being available, there's a lot of people who preach about boundaries and cutting things off and family time. And I do believe in all of that as well. But what we do does require us to be available for our own staff, because they typically work Monday through Friday. And then also I consider our partners, you know, part of our team. So we have to be available for them also. And it is a balance and it is a fine line, but you want to be able to communicate with everybody in the process. And sometimes, you know, people who work, you have to talk to them on the weekends. It's that time. And you set it up and you're respectful and all that.
So Molly, let me just go back. I want to go back to the basics just for a minute, because I know you're a master of this. So I'm going to call it the loan app. I don't even know if there is a loan app anymore, but I think everyone knows it's a 1003 or whatever. I mean, I was told on day one, I won't tell you what year, but I was told, by the way, there's a blank. The blanks are here for a reason. Fill them in. And if there's not an answer for it, draw a line through it. because that way I know you asked all the correct questions. I can't say this enough. All the people on here that have been in crush groups with me or in one-on-one coaching with me, they hear me ranting about this all the time about, fierce games of ping pong. And especially in this kind of market, what I mean by that, Molly, is, you take a pre-qual, and you, for the old people on the call, you'll laugh, you throw the manila folder on the floor. Now we have a virtual floor, but the old manila folder with the docs in it and the credit report, and you throw it on the floor. Now we have a virtual floor. It's in the cloud. You throw it in the cloud. And then you get the contract. And some of these people, it's taken them a while to find a house. And you get the contract, and then you pick it up again. And then your people, this isn't you, I mean, in general, then they look at it, and there's really nothing there. And then they have to redo it all again. And the ping pong starts. Ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. Tell everyone how important it is, how you feel about taking a full loan app and docking the files up front. I just want them to just continue to hear it from other people that are super successful, other than me screaming about it.
So, I mean, it's the only way to do it. If you're not, it is actually your job. So if you went into any other job and you didn't fill out the paperwork that you needed to fill out, you wouldn't get your unemployment, you wouldn't get your Social Security, you wouldn't get your health benefits, you wouldn't get a 401k. Like, everything has to be filled out for a reason. That's my opinion. I feel like even to the age of kids, which people used to argue about, well, there's reasons for that, for underwriting, which has to do with if they're getting alimony or child support, and if it's based on those sorts of things. So there's reasons why all that stuff is there, but it also, you're just lazy if you're not doing it. I don't like, it's actually your job to do the application. As far as docking it, we dock everything up front, which we say this probably 50 times in a call when you and I are on the phone together. But the other thing is we also try to update monthly. We have a system that will push out. It's called Flowify. We are able to ask them every month for updated documents. So that's typically what we're asking for, is the pay stub and the bank statement. Because believe it or not, a lot of people spend their money on big screen TVs and cars. So we want to see what they're doing in their bank accounts, right? And then we also kind of coach people, which I think a lot of people miss this. If I see someone eating out every single day, I'm not afraid to say, hey, I need you to make some food at home. Like, here's how much you're spending. I do it to my own daughter, right? Like, here's how much you're spending. And, you only have $50 left at the end of every month. And yes, you qualify for this house, but you don't qualify if anything else ever goes wrong. So let's start curbing some of these things. And most people never have actual financial conversations with people. And that's your job. You have a fiduciary responsibility to talk to these people and make sure they can afford it. We have all of this information for a reason. So I tell them, like, hey, I'm going to be really blunt with you. And I think most people who know me know that that's sort of my personality anyways. But I'm like, let's walk through this. Where can we peel some of these layers back? And I'll say, I see that you like to go to the movies, twice a month. Is this something that you want to continue to do? Because it's $100 a pop every time you're going and doing this. Then we need to figure out where we're going to cut back somewhere else. And I think adding value to your borrower, whether you're in a hot market or not, which is the reason we use Mortgage Coach, the reason we use Flowify, the reason that we document all this stuff with them, is so that they know they're getting value. It's more than just like, oh, here's an interest rate and here's your loan.
Yeah, it's old school, Molly. I'll never forget when I learned. I was very lucky because I was taught you're technically supposed to underwrite the files up front. Pat Casey's on here; he's laughing somewhere because he was there for those lessons or whatever. But you're supposed to literally underwrite the file. I mean, you should never have a loan denied. If a loan's tough, you should talk to the underwriter about it. Either you're going to do it or not. But you should never be surprised. But that's a level of actually getting the docs and looking at the docs. It's the old question, Molly. Nothing makes me crack up more than loan officer takes a file. Someone's paying, zero rent. Their new payment is $2,000 a month, and they have no money in the bank. And you're like, okay, so have you thought about, how you're going to make the payment? Oh yeah, I'm just going to make it. I'm good. And you're like, okay. So, or maybe you get the answer, and this is why I've never had a loan denied in my career. Maybe you get the answer of, oh, I've been paying off a car, my student loans for $2,000 a month for 12 months, and now I have no debt. Cool. Can you give me canceled checks on that? So I can just submit that with the file to underwriting. But the fact that you're even asking, the other part about that, Molly, which a lot of loan officers don't even understand. When the underwriters know you're doing that, they approve your loans that much faster. And they put way less conditions on there because they know, if you submitted it, the people can make their payment.
Mm-hmm. And there's stuff now that I think that overall in the loan industry with 1-day certainty or day one certainty and all that kind of stuff, where you're not necessarily having to do a lot of that. So there is some backwards thinking going on where we're saying, okay, we don't need to submit all of this. But I will tell you that for me, this is my career, right? So I want to make sure that I'm doing a really good job and providing people what they need financially. Most families never sit down and talk about credit scores, financial freedom, savings, 401ks. They'll talk about don't drink and drive, go to college, don't, have sex, don't party, don't take alcohol from your home. They literally don't have conversations about money with their own family because it's considered taboo. So someone has to step up and do that and say to you, like, listen, there has to be a level of where you cut back some of this stuff. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it.
Yeah. And so a couple of things. I'm looking at the time. I forget exactly what you said, but it was great. I mean, it's as simple as Molly literally said, it's your job. I love that. By the way, I'm just taking that. I'm letting you know I'm swiping and adapting that. I will be saying that. I mean, it's amazing. That's right. If you did any other job and you didn't do your paperwork, you'd be fired. You wouldn't be allowed to work there. A loan officer's job is to do the paperwork. But yet very few of them actually do it. They take a name and a number in one document, and they throw it in LOA and pray and let someone else do it, which is not what's supposed to be going on. I mean, you're supposed to know. The other thing is you're docking everything, but you're actually looking at the docs. I don't know how many of you all missed that, but you wouldn't know if somebody goes out to dinner every night unless you looked at the docs, unless you actually looked, because there's no sign around their neck that says, I eat Chipotle every night. Okay. It's on their bank statement, basically. So you're seeing it go on. The other thing, Molly, I'm just kind of recapping some stuff because I'm looking at the time is, it is your job. It is your responsibility to make sure people can afford what they're buying, that they're doing the right thing. And you know what? Your agent partners will love you for that. It used to be years ago, and Molly, I'm sure you remember this. There's other like super old people, not like you, Darren O'Brien, who definitely would remember, agents screaming at you because you didn't talk someone out of something, but you kind of talked a little sense into them. The agents were pissed, and I remember having those conversations like, what are you thinking? You're jamming them in here with like a crowbar. If their water heater goes, they're dead. I mean, they're eating saltines on the floor for like 2 years. They can't even replace their water heater. What are you doing? Don't you want referrals from these people? Like, don't you want them to be happy? I think agents are more responsible now after, the housing meltdown, that they don't fight back like that. They expect us, especially in a pre-qual, to look and say, hey, how are you going to make the payment? I want you to be happy. I want you to be able to, make your payment.
If they're not, then they're not the right agent either. And you have to assess your relationships. So I'm not at a point in my life where I have relationships with people who aren't looking out for the buyer's best interest. And there is something to be said for that. And there are some really great agents that I don't work with because they are willing to just jam people into houses. And that's not how we operate, because it's not good for the client at the end of the day. We can get them something a little bit cheaper, and maybe they're going to have to fight a little bit harder for it, but they're going to be able to feed their family.
Yeah, it's awesome. So everyone, this is good. This will be on YouTube, and you can watch this again on Facebook. But Molly dropped some pretty, I thought, old school great bombs that are timeless as far as how you should be looking at your business. When you heard her say we're redocking every month, I'm sure a bunch of you were rolling your eyes that either just been through a crush group with me or have to hear from me all the time, because that's part of my BICPP program. But it's really one of the smartest things you can do because you're always ready and you never get in trouble. Molly said it really fast about someone spending all their money. That's the conversation you have to have with the agent where they go like this. But you told me they were pre-approved and I was good to go. You're like, yeah, that was 40 days ago. They bought like a Ferrari in the middle, and by the way, I caught them and I told you they bought a Ferrari. You're not remembering. Most loan officers, they pick that file up. It's the ping pong. The contract comes in, somebody picks that thing up, and it's like a redo, and you're praying because if anything changed, you have to make like the walk of shame. You have to make the call of shame to your agent partner. Yeah, the Smiths. Yeah, cool that you got them in a, under contract and everything, but they're no longer approvable. Why? What happened?
Yeah.
Well, so-and-so left this job and went full commission over here, and they bought a 70-inch TV and a Corvette. Sorry.
We just had that happen. For those that follow me on social media, I actually took a screenshot of a text from an agent that the borrower had bought a car that weekend and if it was going to affect their qualifying. And I probably had 400 people respond to me. It was the actual, they just blocked out the name, and it's so true. But oddly enough, we got that guy in the even with that. But anyways, yeah, it's just a matter of like doing your job, I think, really. And we all have the capability of doing that. And it's important also for your staff, and just really quick, because I know, but your staff, your underwriters, when you said that, it couldn't be more true. Like, it is not fair for me as a leader of my team, but also the leader of multiple people that I manage, to put a crappy file into the system, because then it's crap from start to finish. And someone else is constantly having to clean up your mess. And I feel like that's a retention thing for me to keep people. We all operate the same way so that the loans can pass through the system. You're always going to have some that are issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying loans are perfect, but knowing that you've documented everything and you know every step of the way, it helps the whole team all the way through the closing. So it's important, because if you like the people you work with, you don't want to give them crappy files. They're not going to like you anymore.
There's another gem right there that a lot of loan officers do not, literally, Molly, they just flat out do not understand that. I used to explain it, it's a serene pond. Please don't drop any rocks in my pond, please. It's serene there's no wake in my pond for a reason. And, I used to have this conversation with producing managers all the time, where they would keep a loan officer on because they did so much production, but they were a nightmare and making every other loan officer crazy. And meanwhile, the second they fire them or got them out, everyone's production went up immediately because they were just making everyone crazy. But, Molly just put it succinctly. When you hand in a crappy file, and by the way, everyone, a crappy file doesn't mean it's a tough deal, because tough deals can look pretty when they go in. It means it's a deal that's very hard to work on. Molly said it really fast. Y'all are probably thinking I set her up because you hear me saying it about kids' ages. Okay. All these little conditions that come back on your files that your people have to go doc, you could have found that out in 10 seconds. It'll take someone in your office 30 minutes to track someone down and get that information. So you could have had it in 10 seconds, and you have an overworked LOA assistant, whatever you want to call him, tracking that down so the loan can close, literally, and you're screaming, why isn't other stuff getting done? Well, it's not getting done because they're tracking down something you could have got in literally 10 seconds right up front. But you didn't, because y'all let someone else get it. LOXs, let someone else get it. Large deposits, someone else will deal with that. Well, someone else is someone on your team usually, or someone in your company somewhere. And believe me, if they're chasing that down, then they're not doing something else. There's only a certain amount of time. I love these coaches, Molly, these guys that they're like, you need an assistant for every 4 loans you close. I'm like, well, are you really? How about every 15 loans you close? What are you talking about? Like, what is the loan officer doing if you need help for 4 loans? You really take a nap? What are you doing? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We did not rehearse this, actually, and we always tend to say the same thing when it comes to that. Again, I just had a call last night where they've had the, bank statement forever, and they're supposed to close this week, and now asking for proof of something that was on a bank statement, 6 months ago. And this lady called me, she's with a builder, and she's like, can I move my loan? I'm like, you're a week from closing. Just have that loan officer call me so that I can help them get it closed for you, because I can't do it in a week. So if people were doing those simple things and cared about people they work with, I've had people that have worked with me 11, 12, 13 years, because you want to have the same respect for them. And if you're in the loan application, get the information. If you see something funky, ask about it. It's your job. It's not a process or LOA's job necessarily. Now, if you have an LOA partner, someone who helps take apps, that's different. But I'm not trying to give something to my processor for her to spend 30 minutes figuring out. And then people are like, well, it's just one question. Yeah,
Molly, what is the best way for people to find you? Is it social media, Molly Meeker? What's the best way? Josh will put it. Oh, also, everyone, I forgot. Molly and I did a podcast as well. It's a couple of years ago. It's really awesome. If you want to watch that, Josh will put that in the chat. What's the best way, Molly, if people want to ask questions, if they like what you heard, texting, social media, what's the best way to find you?
So, do you want me to give my phone number right now?
You can you can get whatever you want. It's up to you.
Text or email is great. And then also, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I do a lot on Instagram now, actually. So, anyway, and I think Joel knows this after the podcast that we did. I probably answered 100 emails. I have templates and stuff I can send or help, but I'm usually pretty available, even if it takes me a little while to get the information out to you. So, I'm happy to help anybody because I feel like I got so much help in my career and definitely would not be where I am without all that stuff. So if there's a question or something I can help with, absolutely.
All right. So, Molly, what's your Instagram handle?
I think it's Molly Meeker 4acre.
Molly Meeker. Oh, 4acre. Oh, you're okay. Got it. So Molly Meeker, and then I got it. Married name. Okay. So,
and then Molly Meeker on
any of you all that follow me, you can find her that way very quickly. I'm just my name, and you can find her that way. But if you start typing in Molly Meeker, everyone here's the mortgage business. You'll see she's connected to someone. She'll come right up. And that's Meeker. So Molly, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really, really appreciate it. Everyone, again, this call is officially on Mondays now. It's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific. We've got Central Time, we got Mountain Time on today. We got all kinds of different times on here, time zones. As far as housekeeping, is there any other housekeeping? Oh, Crush Infinity. I just want to throw that out there. That Josh, when does that start? Does that start the 11th, June 11th? We've got a lot of feedback from people.
Something like that, yeah.
People have done crush groups and they finished their crush group a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, and they want to stay connected. We have a new product out there. It's called Crush Infinity. I'm doing the calls. They're weekly calls. The first group starts at 11 a.m. It's a Friday call, Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And I think we still have some slots in it. I'm holding them to 15 because I'm doing the calls. It's all the Crush material and then some. People from all over the country, but you must be a Crush graduate to be in there. So there's no one in there that doesn't already know all the acronyms and doesn't know all the cool stuff. So everyone, thank you so much. Again, next Monday is Memorial Day. We will skip. Molly, as usual, awesome having you on. Great to see you. And talk to everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks, Molly. Bye-bye.
Thank you.